What is up, guys, and welcome back to Electrix Moto. Today we are finally going to unveil and talk about everything that we have done on our Throne SRPnt, we'll call it a Frankenstein build, and kind of talk through each one of these pieces that we've had to mess with to make all of this work and all of this come together. As you know, the Throne SRPnt doesn't have a ton of aftermarket support, but whether you're driving the older Throne SRPnt or the brand new X3, all of this will work if you're willing to do a little bit of bush engineering. So let's hop into the video, talk about each of these pieces and what we had to do to make this bike what it is today. All right, so what I want to do first is talk about the hardest part of this project. And it's really not that hard, it's just what requires the most imagination. So we have a 90-116 tire. It's a Dunlop MX34 that is on the rear of this bike. And it is wrapped around a KKE wheel that was built for a Sur-Ron Light B. So everything in terms of the spacing in the swing arm from the side of the right side of the swing arm to the left side of the swing arm with the spacers, everything there works perfectly. It slides right into place. The only problem is the way the brake caliper adapter is built for this bike. We had to push out the rotor just a little bit. So what we did is we just put some flange bolts on the back side of the rotor that allowed that rotor to be pushed out. So when we screwed our screw through the rotor, through the flange bolt into the hub, it just created about a 5mm gap behind your hub, which pushed that rotor out, which made it in line perfectly with the brakes. So I guess there may be an easier way to do that. That was just the way that we found right out of the gate. That just made things super simple. It's not a hard project to do. If you purchase these wheels and you purchase them through the site, I'll put the link in the description. Please put in the notes that you need the flange bolts for this to work, and we will happily ship you the flange bolts that you need, so you really don't need to think about it. But we're probably the only ones that's going to be able to ship that to you. So if that's something you want to do, make sure you put that in the notes. Now, that's the hardest part. Everything else was fairly easy, but there are a few nuances that I want to talk about now that you need to be aware of if you want to kind of make your Throne SRPnt, whether it's the X3 or the older version, look like this bike. So we're gonna stick with the rear of the bike, and the one thing that you'll notice when you get your Throne SRPnt is that it comes with a 51-tooth rear sprocket. Well, that really kills a lot of the torque and a lot of that instantaneous power that you get. Yeah, you get a little bit more top speed, so that's nice, and I know everybody that goes fast on streets really appreciates that, but if you ride the dirt and you ride trails, you are very rarely hitting the 55, 60 miles an hour that this bike can give you. It's just you don't generally have enough time, and you're not usually on a straight path long enough if you're riding trails to be able to get this bike up to speed. So what we wanted to do is make sure that we had a more immediate hit. The tune for the original Throne SRPnt before the X came out with the 13 kilowatts, it's only 10 kilowatts, but you can get more playfulness out of this bike if you add a bigger sprocket. Well, I could not find any sprockets that fit. So obviously in our shop, we had a bunch of sprockets laying around. So we just started going through sprockets from other bikes to see what would fit. And for this bike, what we did is we took a E-Ride 2.0 58-tooth rear sprocket, and it bolted directly up to the hub on the KKE wheels. So what that told me is we can use any E-Ride Pro rear sprocket built for a 2.0 on your Throne SRPnt. So again, in the links in the description, I will make sure I put the whole collection of all the parts that we've got to fit this bike so you can purchase them. Even though it may say E-Ride on the product page itself, I am confirming that an E-Ride Pro 2.0 sprocket will fit the rear hub of this Sur-Ron Light B wheel mounted to a Throne SRPnt version number 1, not the X3 version, but it will also work with the X3 version. So like I said, it's taken us a little bit of time to kind of put this video together because we've just been trying and playing with different things over and over again. And previously, I believe I spoke about the Warp 9 drop pegs. Allows you to drop your feet down about an inch or raise your feet up an inch depending upon your height and depending upon your ride style. Those do fit this bike as well. That link will be with the collection page, as well as the Warp 9 Elite foot pegs obviously fit this bike. Whether you have the drop brackets or not, the Elite foot pegs will fit this bike. The next thing, the Thrill Seekers seat cover. We went with Thrill Seekers because it was really the only one that we could find at the time. I do not sell Thrill Seekers because Thrill Seekers doesn't answer their emails very often, so you'll have to buy that directly from them, which is totally cool. However, the Thrill Seekers seat cover definitely adds a little bit of grip and makes this big, comfortable seat a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more grippy, which depending upon your riding style may work for you, it may not. Moving up to the headset of this bike. So obviously you see we have Warp 9 handlebars installed on this bike. In the previous video, I made mention about how the throttle housing has a bolt that keeps this housing from rotating forward and back. So what we did is we drilled a hole to match the bolt size, and we were able to get your throttle housing to sit and situate the way it's supposed to on your Throne Serpent with these handlebars. The only issue we're running into is trying to get that hole perfect and threaded is kind of a pain. So we have a slight bit of movement up here in our throttle housing. If you want to do this, it doesn't cause any problems. You can grip on the throttle and twist. It's not going anywhere, but it's not a perfect finish. So we have not released the pre-drilled version of these bars yet. You're going to have to take that project on yourself. It's not hard to do, very simple, and you may have a little bit of movement in your throttle housing and your throttle as a whole, but at the end of the day for us it's not a big deal, just kind of being transparent with you. On the left side of the bike, this control switch is also floating a bit. Now it takes a little bit of force to move it, but for us it's not really a big deal because you're only touching this with your thumb, you're only clicking buttons, you're not using this for anything. So we just opted to not drill another hole because it's easier to not drill a hole than it is to drill a hole. So if you're okay with a little bit of movement on this side, if you wreck, it might spin around on you and then you have to spin it back, but it doesn't need to be locked into position. It doesn't serve a purpose to be locked into position. The Warp 9 bar mounts, those fit directly to the top triple clamp, so you don't have to worry about that. They bolt right in and that is super easy. If you wanted to do a stem lock, which we have not done on this bike, but we just did it on a customer's bike, you are going to have to drill a small hole in your fender to allow for the fender mount stem lock from Warp 9 to fit. I will put this product in the collection as well, and we will put notes and disclaimers as to what you're going to need to do to get that Warp 9 stem lock to work. It's not the end of the world. You just need to drill out a little bit of a hole because the way the fender mount stem lock sits, it sits below the bottom head tube, so it forces your fender to be poked out a little bit. Personally for me, we're trying to figure out the best way to mount an E-Ride 3.0 fender to this bike because I think the 3.0 and the 2.0 and the S, those fenders are the best looking fenders on the market. This thing is kind of ugly. I know it matches the headlight, but obviously if you'll notice, we took the headlight completely off and we just added a black ODI number plate. That product will also be in the collection as well if you want to go this route. Yes, it removes your headlight. We do very little, if any, riding at night, so it's not a big deal for us. This is just what makes the most sense for the way that we like to ride this bike. Now, if you want to talk suspension, we have not done any suspension work to this bike yet, but we are going to be adding some Sur-Ron Light B forks and shock to this bike. It should be a direct mount fitment. We have not confirmed it yet. We will put the products in the collection for you to take a look at if you want to upgrade your suspension. I think maybe even a little bit of a longer fork or a drop crown, swap in a 21, put a put an 18 back here, you know, this bike really starts to come to life, but we are starting to kill some of its performance with heavier modifications. So it may not be something you're really into. This 16-19 setup works really well. We just got in a whole set of Shinko 241 tires that I'm considering putting on this bike, because this does get a lot of dirt play, but if you see the rear tire, you will notice that it also gets ridden on the street quite often. And these knobby tires just get eaten up on the street. That's just the way it is. But that's the basis of what we've done with our Throne Serpent. The X3 is sitting right here off camera. All of this stuff will also work on your X3. If you guys are in search of an X3, I'll put the link for that in the description as well. But this will all work together. So if you just bought a new bike and you want to upgrade it and make it better, or you have an older bike and you want to add new parts to give it your own little flair, whatever that looks like, this is what we've done so far, and we're not going to stop here. We're going to continue to try to develop new things to see what we can get out of this bike, because I think it's kind of an undervalued platform, and for the money, you get a really good, well-built quality machine. So if you guys have any questions, concerns, or information, leave that in the comments. I read them every single day and try to reply back immediately. And we will see you guys on the next one.